The economic outlook for Maryland and Virginia is looking worse than other states, according to a new report. In the Rich States, Poor States report, Maryland ranks as the 42nd state, Virginia at 32nd. Both have experienced drops in the last few years. We want to bring in Lee Schalk. He's with the group who published the report. Lee, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So let's dive right in. Tell us more about the rankings for Maryland and Virginia.
Well, this is a report, Rich States, Poor States, that we've compiled for the last 18 years, working with economists Dr. Arthur Laffer and Stephen Moore. And what we want to look at with Rich States, Poor States is the economic outlook across the 50 states. What are the policies that matter as states compete for new residents and job creators? And what we've found over the years is that the states with lower tax burdens, responsible government spending, and worker freedom are the biggest winners and have the best economic outlook. Unfortunately, Maryland is not one of those states, finishing in the bottom 10 this year. And Maryland has actually lost more than 260,000 residents on net over the last decade. Meanwhile, Virginia sliding to number 32 for economic outlook. Virginia they have lost nearly 150,000 residents over the last decade. However, last year, those numbers did improve slightly.
Well, when we talk about Virginia over the last year, in the areas where there was changes, right, in the variables, what were the biggest shifters there that you noticed with Virginia, especially over the last year?
Well, in Virginia's case, the biggest problem is that Virginia is falling behind by standing still. We take a very close look at income taxes, specifically the top rates on the individual side and for businesses. And of course, this is something that Governor Glenn Youngkin has repeatedly sought to address over the years. Proposing to lower state income taxes, unfortunately, has really been stymied by Democrats in Richmond to try and get that across the finish line. And of course, Virginia finds itself in an extremely competitive region, with North Carolina ranking number 4th in our report, lowering their income taxes over recent years. Tennessee has no income tax, and even West Virginia has successfully lowered their personal income taxes recently.
What went into Maryland's drop over the past 5 years?
Well, Maryland has historically been one of the higher tax states in the nation, and unfortunately seems to be continuing on that trajectory. Governor Wes Moore has proposed to raise taxes on high earners, really seeking to far outpace the states in Maryland's region to the north. I mean, you look at Pennsylvania, Delaware, New Jersey. Maryland is seeking to really outdo and continue that trend of high taxing and high spending. Unfortunately, that will lead to a continued exodus of Maryland residents and businesses.
Lee, any areas or bright spots, things that have gotten better, even though they may not have proved a positive outcome in this report?
Yeah, well, one thing I would say for Virginia that's a bright spot certainly is Virginia remains a right to work state. And this is something that you'll see in the upcoming gubernatorial election on the campaign trail. You'll see the candidates being asked about, should Virginia remain a right to work state? You've already seen Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl-Sears come out in support of that. I would say Virginia, another bright spot is that there are no death taxes currently in Virginia, whereas Maryland has taxes on both estate taxes and inheritance taxes. So those are a few things to watch. I'd also add that the minimum wage is another differentiator here. You've got in Maryland a $15 an hour minimum wage. Some want to take that to $20 an hour. That could further hurt the economic competitiveness of Maryland.
All right, Lee Schalk, thank you so much. I know you're part of the team that helped put this report together and worked very hard in doing so. We appreciate the deep dive.